my mouth all nice and cottony before we
That's
I
like to make sure
my
mouth feels
before we start.
Make sure it feels nice and moist.
Moist. I want
super moist.
I want moist but a little dry. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I mean? Moist but a little dry.
I'm gonna lick my lips so they're moist.
I want it to be. We ready?
Do it.
Hello, and welcome to another podcast. We are From the Middle Podcast. My name is Kendall. I am one of your hosts for the podcast. I am joined by Corey Dwayne Hubble, one of the other hosts of the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm also joined by Dylan Guthrie Hubble, another one of the hosts of the podcast, and this is episode 28. 28.
Think you're supposed to pronounce that Guthrie. It's Dylan Guthrie. That's how you say it.
Oh, my apologies, Dylan Guthrie.
Guthrie.
There's
a little more
Guthrie.
Guthrie.
Guthrie. This is episode 28
There's a glottal stop.
of our
What'd you call me?
a glottal stop.
I've been working on my weight. It's not very nice.
If I could stop gluttling, I wouldn't have this problem. No. So it's good. It's good to be back recording another one. These are fun for us to do. We appreciate anybody who might be listening. Each and every one of you is just a bonus and makes this thing even more fun. We thank you. So we're on episode 28.
On our race to the 800s.
On our race to the 800s.
800 episodes.
800
by summer 2020.
I heard like a collective groan.
Each episode is going to be about 3 minutes long, and this is all it's going to be. And all right, this is now episode 29.
Sorry for the glottal stop there.
No, so it's guys, it's Thanksgiving week.
It is.
This is one of those occasions where actually we're recording the week that we're gonna put this thing out there, which is
super exciting.
Fun couple things. We've got Thanksgiving week coming on. There's a football game this weekend that I keep hearing about around here. That's happening.
Technically, there's a lot of them.
There's a Friday.
Not just the one.
There's a Friday that's coming up that's darker than others.
Yep.
What do you guys got going on? Updates,
there's a lot going on, and it is fun when we know that the episode we record is going to come out, that week live, so we can like do all the time sensitive stuff. Not that we don't do that every time,
but we don't.
Secret's out. But yeah, there is certainly a lot going on, as well as what we hope to talk about a little bit, because it's all over the interwebs, is Disney Plus, and specifically The Mandalorian, but some of the other Disney Plus shows. That's a hot topic around the water cooler.
I call it the D+.
The D+. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And I realize we've done a lot of Disney-themed things on this show. What? But as we said really early on, we're just going to talk about the things we like talking about, and that happens to revolve a lot around Disney at this point.
Yeah,
so
because we figure that every piece of media is owned by Disney, so we just kind of assume that we're probably also
owned by
we
Disney.
don't know that.
Yeah.
But it's safe to assume
it is
that this is a Disney podcast.
Yeah, trademark the Walt Disney Company.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know about you. I don't know how much you've watched on Disney Plus or how much you've played with it. I'm having a blast. It is very fun so far, especially The Mandalorian. But there are other things.
There are other things, and I think that's part of the meat that we're going to get into in just a hot second. Before we do, though, we want to let you know that this episode of From the Middle is brought to you by our friends at Backroom Coffee Roasters. We're having Backroom Coffee right now. And the folks at Backroom Coffee Roasters are not in the business of telling you what to drink or how to drink it. They're in the business of constantly fine-tuning their coffee.
I'm the first thing is what I do. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. They select from among the best coffee farms all over the world and meticulously roast each batch to order before it goes to your favorite store or right to your doorstep. Whether you prefer drinking it black or with cream or sugar, whether you're making cold brew or you're brewing with an automatic drip machine or a pour over, BCR coffee is going to be just your speed. Okay, maybe a little faster. Backroom Coffee Roasters. Finely tuned coffee. So thank you, Backroom Coffee. Use promo code Midler if you're buying 1, 2, or 6+ bags. If you're buying 6+ bags, use promo code Midler and you'll get 10% off your first order. If you're buying 1 or 2 bags, you'll get a free Backroom Coffee Roasters vinyl decal sticker right there. And if you're ordering 3 to 5 bags, you want to use the promo code Backroom3 and you will get free shipping. This is unsolicited. They didn't tell us to do this, but I think we should create a jingle for them right now live on the spot.
Good night.
And you have to be super serious.
I'm so glad you asked.
So we'll each do one. We'll each do a jingle right now for Backroom Coffee Roasters. You're welcome, Trent.
Backroom Coffee Roasters. They roast coffee in the back room. I like my coffee the way I like my.
Good.
And then in the back room.
Good. That's really good. That's really good. You might use their slogan. Here's to coffee-fueled inspiration. Dylan, I think you're up.
Backroom Coffee Roasters. It's great.
Or you might not. You might not use their slogan.
I couldn't remember the sentence. It's so good, but I couldn't remember it.
Okay.
Till the last drop.
All right.
Is that it? Is it no?
I think it's funny. Like, so we're going to do this at Christmas time. You don't know this yet, but we're going to do this at Christmas time where we have to look at each other in the eyes and try to seriously sing Christmas carols.
Nice.
Okay.
And I stole this idea from the 10-Minute Podcast, which is Will Sasso, Brian Callen, and Chris D'Elia. They tried it, and they were just crying, laughing, because the harder you try to be serious,
Yeah.
the more funny it is, especially in a setting like this. All right. Backroom Coffee Roasters. Here's to coffee-fueled inspiration. Brown.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Brown.
Also, full disclosure, you said we're drinking Backroom. You two are, I am not. So one of two things needs to happen. That full disclosure, because video now keeps us honest. Or I'm going to hold up this generic cup and somebody on the interwebs needs to put Backroom's logo over top of it via Photoshop.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Give me this. Okay. All right. Oh,
look at that. Is that a Backroom Coffee Roasters cold brew?
Whoa.
Speaking of which,
Sis and Roasters.
Hey-o.
this week they've
Backroom
announced
Coffee Roasters in the morning with your toasters.
Oh.
Get some Backroom Coffee Roasters.
if you use a coffee table, put it on the coasters.
Mine sounded like an 80s G.I. Joe intro, and I already forgot how it goes. But it was good.
But they have announced this week they're going to have canned cold brew.
Yeah.
So stay tuned to all of social
Super
media.
excited to try that.
See where you can get some in Central Ohio. Or they've even offered, if you want to go to the roastery in Galena, they will sell it to you from the roastery doorstep.
Nice.
That's how cool they are. Nice. For our listeners only. So anyway, just had to say that. Do we have any updates before we get into the meat?
My wife and I had a rare opportunity to go out for an evening.
Nice.
And we saw Nick Offerman
Oh,
on tour.
cool.
Yeah. So that was fun. So I got to... It's always fun when you're in the old downtown theaters and
Yeah.
you're a guy my size trying to squeeze into one of those seats with zero, and I mean zero leg room. But it was fun.
Was he
It
good?
Fun. He is good. He is good.
Comedy.
So
He plays guitar some.
He plays guitar a little bit. It's a shtick. And
Yeah.
it's funny. You know, he's not good at that. But it's funny. He's got some original. For the most part, it's political commentary,
Yeah.
humor, which wouldn't surprise a lot of people. I was kind of surprised that was basically all it was.
Oh, really?
it was pretty much nothing else. But it was still funny. I mean, it's Nick Offerman. He has a funny way of saying things.
What's the name of this tour? Or
oh boy, All Rise or something like that. I forget.
I want to read his books. Paddle Your Own Canoe is one.
Yeah, he's got that woodworking one.
Yeah, Brandon, one of our Midler friends, recommended another one of his books. But he was great on Hot Ones just recently.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Some listeners might want to know what you thought of the architecture while you were downtown.
I tell you what, boy, the architecture in the downtown palace.
You can go building by building, just all the ones you saw.
Well, that was the only one I saw. I saw that in the parking garage.
Okay.
The parking garage architecture was
under the council building.
It was underwhelming, but adequate. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Did you park under the Capitol, under Capitol Square?
No,
Structurally
we didn't.
sound.
We didn't. I don't think we were anywhere really near Capitol Square. I don't know, wherever the palace is. It was dark. I don't spend a whole lot of time downtown. I try to avoid downtown as much as I can, but their theaters are too small.
It's a great theater.
It is a beautiful theater. The architecture is outstanding. I don't know if I've mentioned the architecture. If there's anybody who wants to call in and let us know about the architecture of the palace.
The history of it.
Yeah.
When the
it's got
things were carved.
A big blue rotunda.
Yeah.
Everything was lit with chandeliers and stuff.
Lovely.
So the accessories were cool, but the architecture is where it's at, though.
Do you have any updates, Dill?
Let's go next episode. We've got so much to cover today.
All right.
I'll throw that stuff out next
So I popped into Mr. Fershaw's class.
Yeah.
I wanted to give him a thank you card for being on our podcast, episodes 24 and 25. Is that right? Yeah,
Yep.
24 and 25. And also give him a sticker. And so when I walked into his class, they were studying the 13th century Persian poet Rumi. And his kid, like all the lights were out and they had lamps like this in the classroom. And they were all just like breaking apart like Rumi's poetry and discussing it. And he does this thing where instead of the kids raising their hand when they have a thought or a question, they all stand on their desks. So there's like these kids standing on their chairs. And I gave him the hugged him, gave him the card, said thanks a lot, man. Just wanted to pop in. And I was like, can I just like hang out for a while? So you guys know how inspired we were by Rob Fershaw. And so I just sat in on his class and they started talking about like doing everything with a beginner's mind, right? Like just approaching everything with a zeal for learning. And it reminded me of this thing that I had seen once before. So I was like, do you care if I just grab a dry erase marker and just... So I was like drawing and then I'm kind of like talking to the class too. So it was just this cool, makes you want to hang out in there more often.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's as inspiring at work as he is on the podcast.
Cool.
That was really fun. And then another thing that happened that was fun was so our friend Jeremy asked me to come to he's a teacher as well. English is a second language teacher. And so he said, will you come to our middle school's career day and just talk about like your career in art and graphic facilitation and as an illustrator and designer. And I think there were 5 classes that I had to talk to 20 minutes apiece. After the first class, I realized, why don't I just give him episode 7 of From the Middle? So I sort of like drew out the chapters of the story that I go through, and then I would wrap up each class with, and if you want to know more, you can find at From the Mid Pod on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, all of the things. So I'm like telling 7th and 8th graders that they need to listen to From the Middle.
Which is true. They should.
So if you're listening because of that promo, this is it. This is us. This is what we do. It was good chatting with you. Anyway, so that was funny. So now I'm looking for every opportunity I can to tell people about this thing and what we're trying to do to change the world.
Indeed. So as we were talking about, D+ came out.
Yeah, D+.
Yeah.
So I don't have it. You guys do. We might get it at some point. But I also heard, so that's out. And then I understand there's something. So Star Wars, I think Star Wars is what it's called. Disney owns a franchise now called.
Right. It's older. Not most people haven't seen it.
Star Wars.
It's Wars, yeah.
And apparently Star Wars is on Disney+. And there's a new Star Wars television program. that everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
What's that one called?
Baby Yoda.
It's Baby Yoda. Okay, Baby Yoda is about, if I'm getting this right, it's about kind of like a centaur, but he's half man and half DeLorean. So if you can picture that, and he goes out and hunts bounty.
Yeah, like that. None of it.
So what do you guys think of the Mandalorian?
Do you want to start?
Well, do we want to start with just D plus thoughts in general? Because I have a few just general Disney Plus
go ahead.
thoughts.
It's your
Fine.
world.
Whatever.
He's like, I tried.
Yeah, we'll follow Corey's timeline.
No.
I say
Let's
that.
just
Let's
go.
do all the things that you want to do.
No, I'm cool with organic. We'll just go wherever the conversation's going. Yeah, Mandalorian. He's half centaur.
He's half centaur. No. Corey.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Your train of thought is perfectly
Nope.
fine.
Nope.
We do that because it bothers you.
Nope. Nope. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to drive this thing.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know where to go. So
Did either of you have troubles with the start day login situation?
I did on day one. Just a few issues logging in,
Yeah.
creating accounts.
I was at work the day it launched, so Bree was using it. My wife was using it at home. I think minor stuff. Most of it was working fine, but as to be expected, they had significantly more people sign up than their best case scenario, and so they even Disney wasn't prepared for what was going to hit that day.
Yeah.
So which is a great problem for them. Mm-hmm. But go ahead, seriously, do your big picture.
No,
of
I
Disney
just
Plus.
thought we'd work down from Disney Plus and then into the Mandalorian and other shows. But we could do it the Mandalorian
No, I like
way
that.
first.
Your ideas are better than mine.
No, they're not.
That's awesome.
All ideas are equal.
That's not true.
There's no wrong ideas here. Everything's fine. Everything
Except sometimes smarter people have better ideas than less smart people.
is fine. I do think it's interesting, though, and I think Brad brought it up. If not on the podcast, he's brought it up to me multiple times, which is this idea that, Netflix will just release a whole season of a show and people binge watch it.
Right.
What Disney Plus is doing with its episodic shows is that it's releasing them week at a time.
I like that, I think.
And so a lot of people who are used to the binge watching think Stranger Things, think any other,
Everything we've been doing.
everything we've been doing for 10 years.
Yeah.
This feels very weird to go back to this weekly sort of cadence.
Yeah.
Brad was saying, I actually like it because with something like Stranger Things 3 coming out, people binge watch it that day, that weekend, and then they don't know when other people have watched it, so they can't really talk about it because they don't want to spoil stuff.
Right.
But with what Disney Plus is doing, it's sort of bringing back this idea of like a communal experience where we're at the water cooler at the office going, did you see this week's episode? And we're all, it's a shared experience again. Yeah. So I wondered what you guys' thoughts were about that. Like whether you've watched it or not, this idea that they're trying to lock you in for a longer period of time, because we had some family Thanksgivings this past weekend and it came up more than once at separate family Thanksgivings, which was, what's with all these streaming services coming out? Apple TV Plus and Hulu Plus and Disney Plus, and they need to get their act together. I can't afford to buy all these. We talked about this in episode 11. No one's expecting you to buy them all. You buy the ones you want when you want to watch stuff, and then you toggle off that service and you jump on to the next one.
Yeah. So if that's you, stray away from the 3-year commitments.
Yeah.
And just do month by month.
So anyway, what are your thoughts on that? I like it because I had more conversations about The Mandalorian with multiple different people on work trips, family stuff. And it's like everybody's excited. Hey, what did you think of this past week's episode? And what do you think that means? And it's like the days of Lost or those big primetime TV shows that lots of people watched. I think it's fun.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I don't have Disney Plus, but and I've never been so all I have is antenna at home, and then we have Hulu, and we have Amazon, so it's pretty much movies that I watch. And I'm doing some catch up with Monday Night Raw on Hulu at the moment. Eventually, there will come a time when I'm caught up on Monday Night Raw, and then I'll be watching that and SmackDown both sort of in real time. So I'll be on a weekly schedule with those.
Yeah.
But like when we had Netflix and we would just sit and watch whatever straight through, like House of Cards and it was, I remember actually thinking to myself, I'm going to watch another one, but I wish that it made me wait. You know, like I don't have I don't know, because the social aspect that you were talking about, like there's no reason for me to have the discipline to like wait and watch it every week because no one's doing it with me.
Right.
But no, I'm totally on board with the let's release them every week. Let's get the hubbub going on. Let's get people talking about it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, then it becomes like taboo to talk about it.
Right.
Because you don't know who's where.
Right.
But no, exactly what you said. So you walk in the next day at work and you're like, man, did you see? Yeah, I saw it. Blah blah blah. I know. Yeah. Can you believe you went back in time? And you know,
Half Centaur.
right?
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier. So we all had the kind of cable model of one a week, and then we all had the access to the likes of Netflix and binge watching shows, and most of us claimed to like that better, at least for a long time. Myself included, and I think I'm still in that camp where I prefer the option of binge watching because I know spoilers are more of a thing. You know, if people watch it all at once, they talk about it for a few days and then it goes away.
Right.
Where if I can watch at my own cadence, I'm not worried about spoilers. I can watch 2 or 3 here and then skip it. And so I actually still prefer the binge model. But with that said, I'm not going to, just because Disney's doing it and I like The Mandalorian a lot, I'm not going to say that this way is better now.
Yeah.
I still would prefer them dropping all the episodes. Just let me go watch it when I want. However, with that said, the episodic way to do it that we still see with shows on like Hulu that come off of cable.
Right.
My beef with that is that's not an issue with The Mandalorian, at least this season, is you still have the winter break, a really long winter break, and then you have this long summer thing, which are kind of arbitrary. They're not from a TV ratings point of view, but they are with how people can watch stuff now.
Sure.
And so it's like, I'm going to watch the last episode of this TV show that started in September in mid-November. Then I've got to wait 8 weeks. Then I got to come back and watch 4 episodes. Then I got to wait 6 weeks. Then I can come back and because they want the show to run through May. And that's just, I'm so tired of that version. So at least with The Mandalorian, we're going to get 8 episodes. They're all going to drop between end of October, November, November and December. The whole first season will be out across basically 6 weeks or 2 months or whatever. And you'll get to watch all of it then.
Yeah.
And so that's better for me. I do miss getting together to watch things with people. I did that the last couple of years of Game of Thrones. But we would wait. So we would let 2 episodes build up at a time, get together, watch it, because then it's like watching a movie. And then, you try to skip the spoilers for a couple weeks, get back together for 2, and so on and so forth. So I still would rather just binge watch when it works for me, but I get it. I get why people like that.
You don't feel like there's so much more, it adds so much more when you're watching it as like a shared experience?
I get the idea of the built anticipation, and don't get me wrong, I like the shared experience of it, but I think that's better in theory than it is happening in actual application. I think lots of people would say they would get together to watch things, and then they don't. They just watch it at home.
Well, whether you're getting together or not, it's like you're just talking about it with friends and,
Yeah, I enjoy that part. I guess just for me and my current lifestyle, I just like the ability to, I'm just going to watch 2 or 3 now. And then when I can watch again, I'll just watch a couple more.
Yeah.
I still have that option. I mean, I can wait and watch 2 episodes at a time.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I'd be okay if they all dropped at once. But I get it. It's way better for Disney, Disney's model. Even Netflix has started getting away from dropping whole seasons. You have things like Patriot Act with Hassan Minaj. That's the kind of political comedy show that's a weekly thing. A couple of the other new style shows. And, I get it. It's better for the model if people stay subscribed. and they don't hop in, binge a show during their trial, and then hop out. So
Yeah.
We had a really good question on Facebook from Charles, and he listens to the show for some reason.
Charles, for those of you who are unaware at this point, those who know him, I think probably all figured out Charles Martindale was the mystery caller from episodes ago. I have a couple different friends that got a hold of me and guessed correctly
Oh, nice.
on who that was. But yeah,
So do you want to read his? We have
was
his question
Charles.
pulled up, right? Do you want to read his question?
let me find it here, vamp, so that I don't have to edit anything out.
Vamp. Backroom coffee roasters. Here's to coffee fueled inspiration.
reminds me of Chris Pratt. It's like Chris Pratt singing from Parks and Rec.
So my high school buddy Andy and I, we would like playfully sing along to the radio, but we'd always add the sound "wow" after each like phrase,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like a power ballad thing.
Whatever helps you enjoy the
Yeah,
music,
that is
man.
a great story. Question from Charles Martindale about the historical cultural disclaimer. I feel like I'm being a jerk today. I don't know what
good.
it's about.
Hey,
me.
we're even now because I
man.
redirected your.
It plays well for the audience. It's fine.
I'm all giddied up on that backroom coffee roasters coffee.
We're not going to cut that out no matter how many times you clap. That's not a break point. We're leaving it in.
Charles says, today we watched some old stuff on Disney Plus. Steamboat Willie, the original version of Lady and the Tramp. And The Swiss Family Robinson, It Was a Sick Day and Snow Day at Home. In the details of those movies and others like them, they have the following disclaimer. And he quotes, "This program is presented as originally created. It may contain outdated cultural depictions." End quote. Charles asks the question, do you guys have any thoughts worth sharing about the existence of a disclaimer like that?
So when he shared that on Facebook, I shared the GIF of Admiral Akbar from Star Wars going, "It's a trap," because that's a pretty loaded question, but I totally see what he's saying.
Yeah.
As the history guy, Dylan, do you want to take a stab?
I think it's more important that we don't pretend like things like that didn't happen
Yeah.
and try to appropriately address it without overcompensating.
Sure.
Than to hide the content itself.
Yeah.
So Disney could have chosen to remove the content entirely that might be considered offensive. But pretending like it doesn't happen doesn't work. I mean,
Right.
it's still there. So I think they handled it. I think they handled it about as well as they could have.
Sure.
Because in spite of some of those things that might be potentially offensive, I don't. You know. You can always try to judge intent.
Yeah.
And Disney making kids movies probably didn't have a lot of malice behind it. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about the person because that's a whole separate
Right.
Walt Disney himself, but the actual animators and the people working on the film to try to appeal to kids probably didn't have a lot of malice in its intent. So, I get it. Did they need to do it at all? Probably not. But do I understand why? Yes, and I don't think it's overcompensating.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think I'm guessing, although I don't know for sure about Corey yet, but I'm guessing that we're going to be pretty much on the middle on this because you simultaneously do and will continue to have people who on one side of the coin are saying that Disney Plus shouldn't be including any of that content at all. It should not be available. And
Cancel culture.
It should be scrubbed cancel culture. And then you have another side that says, get rid of that disclaimer. It is what it is. And then I'm over here like, I'm okay with a disclaimer. Like I'm okay with it being there, and I'm okay with there being a disclaimer. And I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah, we didn't talk about this before, but I'm with you guys. I think if one side of the ditch is canceling it because it has anything offensive in it, that doesn't help you have a discussion, and that doesn't help you learn. You just remove it you take it away as an option for people to view, see, listen to. The other side is to be overly apologize for everything and then and then now you've made it into this huge thing. I think art both pushes culture forward and art reflects culture. So let that cartoon from 1930 whatever stand as a reflection of the culture of the time. Let's learn from it so that we can be better for it, or else we repeat history, right? What's the saying? If we don't learn from history, we run the risk of
you're doomed to repeat.
You're doomed to repeat it. So let that be an existing artifact from how things were at that time. Let's learn from that, and let's let it be a museum to reflect the culture and be better for having learned from it.
Yeah,
So
because ultimately it's probably easier and better just to do it that way, because there's going to be some things. I'd imagine it probably goes something like this: that the oldest cartoons that are available are probably going to be the worst culprits, and then you'll have other ones that, like, is Bugs Bunny teaching kids violence, and then it starts getting kind of more nuanced, and it's like, do you have to get on a case by case basis and try to figure that out, or can you just say, you know what, we're just gonna put it out there,
Right.
we're just gonna say, hey, some people might not like some of it.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, everyone has the ability to choose to spend their money where they want. So if somebody finds that content offensive, it's certainly understandable to not pay Disney Plus,
Sure.
or at the bare minimum, just not watch that content. And so, yeah, I it's tough, because anything that hints around any kind of hot button social issue is already tough to have an opinion on publicly, right? You run the risk of severely alienating, people, or angering people, or hurting people, or whatever. But
I like that they're being thoughtful about it, and they're trying to bridge the gap. And we don't know to what cartoon Charles is referencing that they watch, so we don't even know the specific instance.
No, we
but
don't.
yeah, keep that in mind if somebody comes back and says,
he
"Well,
did
what
say.
about this exact example?" There's he said
Steamboat Willie.
Well, he said among others, and there's others like them. And I would say we're not even talking about one of those specifically, because I haven't seen them or don't remember them enough to speak
Right.
for each individual film and each scene that might be referring to or whatever. But I just think wholesale, that's thoughtfully handled as best as possible.
cool.
With you.
All right, so Mandalorian. Now we're down to the specific show level. We started high, we went down low. See what we did there? We didn't have to do it that way,
That was a great idea.
but we did.
Also, big level before Mandalorian.
Okay.
There's a couple other things. Other than everything being a little buggy still, I think the user interface is super clean.
Yeah.
I like some of the categories and things. If you hit the Explore tab, it's really cool. It'll say Disney through the decades, and there's like a 2030s category, and then 1940s, then 50s, then 60s.
cool.
and
So like super offensive, a little bit offensive.
Right, less offensive. Yes, yeah, more digestible, super digestible, disgustingly digestible. So you can go through, but I like some of the search categories, and also, if you've noticed in the app or on the website, if you go to the submit feedback thing, you can request. There's a place where you can request features and request certain movies that might not be on there.
Oh.
Now, with that in mind, a lot of people don't. It's like, why isn't this one thing on there from Disney? Hold up, everybody. Disney had signed a lot of contracts with a lot of other streaming entities to sell that content for a certain amount of time to the likes of Hulu or Netflix or HBO or Prime or whatever. So if literally every piece of Fox, National Geographic, Disney, Muppets, Star Wars, Marvel content isn't on there, relax.
Yep.
In time, those things will expire under their current contracts and will probably get pulled back to Disney Plus. But you can go in and request something. So one thing Netflix has never done, that was the first thing that I submitted to Disney Plus, alphabetize your watch list. Now, Netflix does it based off of their algorithms and then their exclusive shows that they want you to watch is kind of, or the order in which they were entered into your.
Yeah.
They've never had an alphabetized button, which I would find super helpful. So like I went in and submitted that feature that they should do it. Doesn't mean they will.
Can't you just go into like your library and be like, I want to watch and then it pulls it up for you?
You can do the search, but I don't always. Sometimes I want to scan. I don't have a.
You want to make sure that you're not rusty on your alphabet.
That's right. It's exactly it. I want to make sure I remember B is after A and C is after B. So in which case,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You need,
and you can go on the desktop and drag it into alphabetical order so that it appears in alphabetical order.
I used to do that with Netflix until I had 300 things in my queue, and that wasn't practical anymore. So, anyways, but
I do like that they've baked in like a feedback loop where they can, get analytics of what people are asking for. And
yeah, absolutely. I realized the 1997 film Rocket Man with Harlan Williams was not on there, and I couldn't find it on another streaming service. So it might just be that it's not tied up somewhere. It's just not on there yet. So I went in and requested that.
Such a great
And they were
movie.
like, oh, you're the only one who's asked.
Yeah, literally in decades, the only person who's asked for that to be out of the vault.
They were like, oh yeah, we forgot about that one.
Yeah, it was 22
Other
years
than
ago.
Harlan Williams and the chimpanzee.
Who still probably makes a decent check off of that every time it's on Disney Channel. But yeah, Mandalorian now.
So I have to shout out my buddy, my CCAD friend, Brian Mattias, who is a concept designer at Lucasfilm, who designed the characters for Mandalorian.
Wow.
So when Jon Favreau was going around to the Star Wars celebration, this is way before the show came out. Jon Favreau and the other guy from you said his name earlier, cowboy hat, from
Dave Filoni.
Dave Filoni.
John Travolta.
If you don't know Dave Filoni, he's kind of the mastermind between the Star Wars Clone Wars,
Rebels.
Star Wars Rebels, and Star Wars Resistance animated TV series that are Star Wars canon.
Yeah.
So when those guys, as well as some of the actors, were again way before the show was even, before even the trailer came out, they were at Star Wars Celebration, the big annual Star Wars convention, and Brian's illustrations were projected to the size of a building behind Jon Favreau and those guys, like giving an early teaser of the concept art.
Nice.
So Brian, dude, you're crushing it over at Lucasfilm, and it's so cool. His name's in the credits, and it's really cool. So just got to shout out a fellow CCADer before we get into the meat of the show. Are we doing a spoiler-less version, and then we'll do spoilers later?
No.
It's
just talk about
go
it.
for it.
And Brian,
we'll just go ahead and tell you right now that there's spoilers coming.
Yeah, Brian, if
you're not
Corey
up to
tagged
date.
you and got you to listen to this, if you could share this podcast with everyone that you work with and have them tweet it, like Kathleen Kennedy, for example, that would be great.
Yeah.
I thank you.
Maybe not let them listen to the part where we said that we might be a Disney podcast, because I don't know. We don't.
We might have to pull that episode.
I mean, they could sue us, and we'll have to give them our stickers.
We're not
basically.
really. That was a joke. We make jokes.
This is a comedy.
Comedy podcast. We make jokes.
So
Whatever. Mandalorian.
Lawyer conditions apply.
Spoiler alert. If you haven't watched The Mandalorian up through part 3.
Chapter 3.
And including chapter 3. If you've not watched through
That
chapter
annoys
3.
me a little bit. I'm hearing all these people talking about chapter. I'm like, it's episode 3.
Yeah.
It's chapter
They
3.
might not want to reuse the word episode with the episodes. Might be why.
What? Okay, you're going to have to explain that to me.
Like Star Wars episode 1, 2, 3,
I see
4,
what you're
5,
talking
6,
about.
7, 8, 9. They might
Okay.
want to use a different word to describe.
That word is Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Episode 3.
Yeah. Well, they don't want it to appear to be an episode film like the major films.
I understand
I'm
that.
not saying it's right. I'm just saying it might be.
I understand that, but I also don't
Chapter.
think that that Malcolm in the Middle episode 3. Oh, is that Star Wars?
Bad example, but I get where your head's at.
I don't know. I think it's silly.
The Mandalorian episode 3. So if you've not watched up through that point, that is
Chapter 3.
That is what we're going to be talking about. Go ahead.
Just right out of the gate, it feels very westerny, old Western film, samurai film. I watched a panel today, separate from the one I was describing, where they showed Brian's artwork, but I watched a Q&A panel with some of those same people, and they were sort of talking about the inspiration for the show being sort of that gritty Western samurai movies from days of old. And it just feels like that when the Mandalorian walks. There's like the ching, ching, ching of his armor. And they sort of establish this pattern where as he completes missions and earns money, he's adding to his armor. So it's like this piecemeal armor that he's continually adding to. So every piece of him has a story, his gadgets and his tech. They absolutely maximize this idea that the Mandalorians are mysterious. They are supposed to be the toughest warriors in the entire universe, Star Wars galaxy. The most trained, battle-tested warriors, and so they never take off their helmets. There's this whole code that exists among this race of people. So Mandalorians are a race of people.
Yeah.
He is a Mandalorian, and they call him Mando for short, but he is a Mandalorian. So was Boba Fett and Jango Fett, and so...
Which we don't know, but might even be considered offensive to him. Because the people that refer to him as Mando... is like the first guy in the bar that he gets in sort of a fight with.
Yeah.
And then the essentially the contractor for his mercenary jobs.
Yeah.
So might even be an offensive term to Mandalorians. We don't know that yet, but I thought that somebody pointed that out. And I'm like,
If there are any Mandalorians out there, let us know.
Yeah, just email us.
Any centaurs. By the way, so you said it was old westerny, and I just want to point out that Back to the Future 3 was also old westerny.
Yep.
So they've got something about DeLoreans, and
so there is a connection there.
There is. They're going to tie them together. They're going to tie them together at some point.
Doc Brown shows up.
They're going to merge. Yeah.
But just from initial impressions, you could tell from setting, the production value is that of a movie. It doesn't feel like just a TV show. It is up there with the films, and so I shared a meme today on our Facebook page that was like, first episode, or right out of the gate, I was like, a little bit skeptically optimistic, and then after 3 episodes, you're bought in. You're like, this is the way.
Yeah, it's real good. I was really blown away by, like Corey said, the production value is absolutely film quality. But it's funny because you get so kind of amped up for Star Wars. At least I did. For me, it's easiest to watch it late at night. Wife goes to bed. I'll pair my headphones to Apple TV. I can crank up the headphones. So I actually pulled the love seat in our living room like a foot away from the TV. So I'm sitting right in front of it, forgetting it's only 37 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready for a 2-hour movie to be like a foot and a half away from the television, and it ended so quickly. But it's so good. And so that was the weird part for me. I felt like I was strapping in for like hours to sit here and enjoy this movie. But, they do a really good job. Somebody said it really well, and I'm not going to articulate it as well as I read it. But they were talking about how everything Star Wars since the original trilogy, in some ways has felt bottlenecked. So the prequel movies, once they came out, you knew where they had to go.
Right.
And then you had Solo and Rogue One that you knew where they had to go. And even the prequels, in a way, some of the world building that the prequel films did so well. I'm sorry, I said prequels, I think twice. The sequel films, in some ways, bottleneck themselves with the story. The universe got more and more narrow. Like by the time we see the end of The Last Jedi, you've got a couple ships, First Order ships following one rebel ship that's almost out of gas. The whole battle has come down to one narrow point where there's a couple survivors left on the planet at the end of The Last Jedi, as we knew at the end of that film.
Yeah.
And so they're talking about how everything at every point always kind of felt bottlenecked. We knew everything was getting smaller and smaller down to these plot points that we had to fill in.
Yeah.
And they said The Mandalorian is the first time that it just feels wide open again, even though it's after Return of the Jedi, because it's not a character that we see or will probably see in the sequel films, being 7, 8, 9, it just feels wide open. We're not dealing with certain characters that have to follow a certain path at some point. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And that's probably not 100% accurate, but I did kind of get what they were hinting at, that like, yeah, everything else sort of had to get to a certain point. And so you knew where everything was pointing. But with The Mandalorian, you really don't know. It feels wide open. Wild Westy is a very accurate way to describe it. Even the intro, which I think some people didn't like right away, grew on me very quickly. It's got this Wild West feel with a little bit of futuristic. I mean, anybody can go YouTube search it and check it out. But it's very interesting. It feels wide open where they could take this, and I'm very excited about.
And it's only going to get more wide open after Rise of Skywalker ends on December 20th. It could go wherever. This whole franchise and all the shows that are, I mean, there have been talks about some trilogies and then those go away. Rian Johnson and then the guys from
the Game of Thrones
Thrones guys. And then they backed out of that one, but it really is wide open after that, because you're now wrapping up 3 trilogies and a certain family story and lineage, and it can go wherever it wants now, and it's never going to stop.
It's really interesting because now the only thing that we know is coming is the Obi-Wan TV series. Is the only thing that's confirmed. That's going to go back and fill in a very specific gap in the Star Wars timeline that nothing else makes sense to put there anyways.
Right.
If you're looking at the whole time.
It's an interesting gap, though, that a lot of people talk about and theorize. And
Obi-Wan is one of the most beloved characters in the Star Wars whole universe. And so if they're going to do it, it makes sense. They're going to take advantage of Ewan McGregor, who's still alive to play that role. And so it makes total sense. But yeah, it's pretty incredible. If you've watched the animated series Star Wars: The Clone Wars, you're going to get some of those Mandalorian scenes feel reminiscent of things that they did in a kids animated show. I think Dave Filoni, who created a lot of those animated series, has done a really good job at putting something in animation that doesn't just feel like a kid show.
Yeah.
That's handling some very serious storylines, but does so in a way that kids can watch, but it's still meant for adults as well. And so, but you had some cool moments where you've seen some of those storylines that take place around Mandalore in the animated series, and you're getting little hints of those things that you've just seen before, but with a brand new character, or brand new characters, plural. And so we haven't been super spoilery yet so far, but
not really.
Until you really get to then spoiler the introduction of our baby Yoda character. Yep. I was lovingly calling it Yiddle. If you know, the only other confirmed canon character from Yoda's species was in the prequel films on the Jedi Council, was a female version of that species named Yaddle. And since Yoda, Yaddle, and this one's little, I just went with Yiddle.
Anywho.
And we've got our Yiddle from Yoda's planet. So, and those memes very quickly spread across social media with the baby Yoda.
And there's already like an uproar that toys don't exist before Christmas of this adorable little baby Yoda, and that he doesn't have a name, and that we don't know the name of his species. So what are they going to put on all the boxes?
And can I interject there before all the people were like, well, of course they just did this for merchandising, blah, blah, blah. We've already broken this down. However, Disney can create quality content that also happens to be merchandisable. Those aren't mutually exclusive things. Caring about content does not mean that you will never merchandise, and wanting to merchandise does not mean something is bad content. You can want to do both things.
Yeah.
And they have these characters.
Make something that you don't want to buy?
Yeah, they have these characters in every film. There's always a cute droid or an alien or the Porg or the Jar Jar. There's always something. He's so adorable. I just want something with his talk track with every phrase he has from the movie.
I want a Jar Jar Binks Christmas album. That's what I want.
And you can have it.
You mean Sith Jar Jar?
Yeah.
Sith Jar Jar.
I did order my Mandalorian pop vinyl figure though.
Yeah.
And those were already selling out from the Disney store, by the way. So go ahead and get yours before they are all sold out.
Wait for all the Yiddle stuff to come out, and you can get all your baby Yodas.
So that was very cool. That's taking the internet by storm, baby Yoda. And we know that he's 50 years old, even though he's a baby. They age differently than the humans do.
Of course.
We know that it's not Yoda. We're only calling it Baby Yoda because we don't know what that species is called. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's a lot of mystery around it. One of my super Star Wars geek friends, just posted this crazy random theory about how Mandalorian will end.
Okay.
And I don't even want to say it in the off chance that he's right, but how it could tie in to the Rise of Skywalker.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't read the article because I don't want spoilers at this point, but there was a headline saying how, it was like the new Mandalorian series could tie to Rise of Skywalker in a big way.
Oh no.
and a lot of people are going, yeah, you didn't want anything to do with the Mandalorian as the big Star Wars film until it got really popular, and now you're like, hey everybody, these tie together. I didn't want spoilers for that film yet because it's such a big one, but I do think it's funny how popular it's getting. And I had said really early on, what if this is actually Boba Fett who somehow survived the Sarlacc pit and he's just still alive, and they're waiting to see if this show goes well, do we make that the reveal at some point? He doesn't at this point. He would not want to be known by Boba Fett because he would have failed the Empire, and so for him to sort of restart might be better. It doesn't make sense with some of the flashbacks, that they've done.
The flashbacks wouldn't make sense.
But we don't really know because he's a clone. Those could be Jango's flashbacks. And so,
because there was a super battle droid.
Yeah, so it could be maybe Jango's thing, or the droids were out in some of these distant planets really early, and so it's interesting. Also, somebody else did the math on Baby Yoda, that if in theory, Yoda has said he trained Jedi for 800 years and he lived to be 900. That means in another 50 years, Baby Yoda should be ready to train Jedis. So you do the math on that and how close that gets you to the new sequel films, and maybe we'll see an older Baby Yoda.
I don't remember anything crazy from Chapter 2, but Chapter 3 had a pretty epic ending.
Yeah, that was Chapter 3 so far has been the big one. If one is kind of introducing you to the Mandalorian himself, 2 is kind of introducing you to Baby Yoda, and 3 is really introducing you more to Mandalore, the idea of Mandalore.
Yeah, the Mandalorians, the code that they live by, the way that the bounty hunting system works in the lawless universe after the fall of the Empire, and how they sort of get these like tracking devices to go track people down, and and how only one Mandalorian is supposed to be above ground at a time, sort of in their internal code, so that people aren't really sure of their numbers. But then the Mandalorian gets in a bit of a pickle, and then up above this archway fly with jetpacks like a whole group of Mandalorians to give him cover fire so he can escape with Baby Yoda. And they hadn't shown any jetpacks or anything yet, really. And you didn't know really how many Mandalorians there were. And then they introduced some like heavy infantry Mandalorians, which I think is Jon Favreau.
I think it is. I think Jon Favreau is actually one of the Mandalorians. There's kind of a stockier heavy gunner. It's like the Gimli of the Mandalorians. You got this bigger guy with the heavy gun.
Like a big chain gun.
And I think it's actually Jon Favreau in the suit.
So they come in and save him, and then he sort of escapes in his ship, and then to the right of his cockpit is flying on with his jetpack a Mandalorian, and he kind of says, I got to get one of those.
And none of this has even really alluded to, there's some amazing Metal Gear Solid type sneaking around that Mandalorian does. There's some stormtroopers, kind of rusty stormtroopers guarding this little base where Baby Yoda might be, and that's not including any of that, and some of the weaponry he uses is very cool because it's almost this, it's in a way he's almost the Bruce Wayne Batman. He's not a superhero. He's just a guy who knows his tools, what he can do really well.
Yeah.
And that's Mandalorians in and of themselves. They're not Jedi. They're not Sith. They don't experience the Force. I think at most in the animated series, they allude to the dark saber, which is a lightsaber that the Mandalorians can use, but they still aren't really wielding the Force. They're just using this sort of different looking version of a lightsaber. And so there's some very, very cool moments where he's you see him sort of doing his thing. Also, the blue alien that he has to transport is Horatio Sands. Did you catch that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, totally random reference.
Whoa.
If you remember the name Horatio Sands,
Yeah,
you can
from
Google
SNL.
it. From SNL, yeah. But one of the aliens is a little silly in his banter with the Mandalorian, who's having none of it, and it turns out it's Horatio Sands. So that was kind of good. But
Have we lost you yet, Kendall?
No, I'm still.
You still with us?
Yeah, no, Mandalorian.
We
and
have
Horatio Sands. I got it.
we have like 10-ish minutes. Do we want to talk other Disney Plus shows or get to some Thanksgiving-y stuff / the game?
oh man,
Decision time.
there's a lot to do.
Well, only some of it's time sensitive, so
Yeah,
we can talk other Disney Plus shows later.
yeah. Let's go with what's time sensitive.
Okay. So, do we want to talk the game, or do we want to talk Thanksgiving?
Let's talk Thanksgiving first.
Okay.
All right, because I don't know what commentary I can add to the game other than I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, it should be fun.
Yeah,
We'll see.
It's ranked. Both teams are ranked. Should be a good game.
Do we have to explain to people what the game is?
Michigan, Ohio State. If you're a college football fan, you know what that is, and you know what that means.
It's certainly, arguably, even if you're not an Ohio State or Michigan fan, one of the top 10 rivalries in all of sports.
Yeah.
Even if it's not been a competition at certain times throughout that rivalry, it still goes down as one of the biggest sports rivalries. That's why it's simply just called the game.
Yeah.
Very exciting, although Ohio State has already punched their ticket to the Big Ten Conference Championship game. There's still a lot on the line to make sure they look good.
To make sure they look well, yeah.
Playoff ready.
I think
Can't lose to Michigan.
Ohio State's going to the Big Ten championship game regardless of what happens. And then if Ohio State drops against Michigan, then they win their championship game. They're still in. I mean, there's not
Probably. There's not as much for Michigan at this point. 2 losses is bad only for a program like Ohio State or Michigan.
right.
So they're fighting to sort of make a good final stand.
Exactly.
on their season.
Michigan's fighting just to win a game against Ohio State.
And
That's it. There's
Harbaugh
nothing
needs more big wins. He's only had one, really. And so it's important for Harbaugh. It's important for Michigan. Ohio State, it's a little less important, but they certainly don't want a loss on their record at the end of the season. So,
Right.
especially to the likes of Michigan.
I don't like going into games where your opponent has nothing to lose and everything to gain. It makes me nervous.
Well, we're a little bit that. I mean, in a way, if you lose to Michigan, you're 11-1. If you win the Big Ten championship, you're 12-1. And it would be hard to not include Ohio State unless for some reason it was a blowout, and they lost 42-10.
Yeah.
If it's any kind of close game on the road at a ranked Michigan and they lose by 3-7,
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
they're not going to get faulted a whole lot for that.
Right. There's going to be there's only a couple undefeated teams out there.
Yeah.
And so the teams who have one loss, if you can point to yours and say ours was Michigan at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's
That's
a
it. You're
huge
in.
rivalry game. I mean, even a loss to Michigan still looks better than an Alabama schedule at this point.
True.
Something like that. And some of the Big 12, Pac-12 schedules.
But again, Alabama, by the way, now Alabama they have the problem that they're they have the problem that Ohio State doesn't have, which is the ticket is stamped for a conference championship game. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me to see Alabama sneak back in there because again, their one loss, and their one loss is literally the best loss you could have, which is LSU.
Yeah, but they have the worst schedule among Power 5 programs.
Yeah,
Their
that is what it is.
They lost their hardest game. I think for me, the only way Bama makes it in with their Heisman contending quarterback out for the season.
Sure.
If they can manhandle Auburn and win by a huge margin, I could see justifying putting Bama in, depending on what other things.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel
happen.
like they're sitting right there at 5 right now.
Yeah,
and I think that my guess is that the playoff committee put them at 5 for a reason, so that they are right there in case something happens.
Probably.
They're ready to jump.
You've got a
in.
muddy Pac-12. You've got a muddy Big 12. You've got right now 3 clear front runners, LSU, Clemson, and Ohio State are in, barring something horrific happening to one of those teams.
Yeah.
Either Georgia or LSU, and if Georgia beats LSU, then you have LSU probably at 4 instead of Alabama.
Exactly. So that's where LSU and Ohio State both probably already in. Clemson probably already in.
Probably already.
It's that last spot. Will it be Bama? Will it be Oregon? Will it be whoever?
Yeah, and we're covering the same stuff all the talking heads do, but it's very exciting this time of year, and I'm sure lots of places when you hit rivalry week, Ohio State's putting red tape over all the M's around campus. Nobody's saying the name of the team if they can help it. You got all those little fun shenanigans that happen all over the country for rivalry week, and it's a lot of fun.
Yep.
I love that the games start on like Tuesday. I think Tuesday or Wednesday this week, and we're going to see a lot of those games ramp up throughout the week and weekend. All these programs that claim to hate each other. It's so much fun.
Yes.
So we're not going to talk about the football game.
No, let's talk about that
Yeah.
later.
So we don't have time for that.
Yeah, let's talk about that later.
So if you're not decorated for Christmas yet, what's wrong with you?
I don't know. But I think we agreed, you and I, Kendall, are the ones fine with Christmas music in November.
I'm fine with Christmas music in freaking March.
Yeah. I mean, I don't listen to it then, but I would be in theory.
Yeah, no, I like it. No, I like to decorate early. I have no problem with that. There was a thing going around in the social medias earlier. I'm not talking about that yet, but a thing that said like, hey, I'm not forgetting about Thanksgiving. Here's my calendar. And then what date is Thanksgiving on? I forget. 20 something.
Thursday. I don't know.
Is it 20 Thursday?
Yeah, 20 Thursday.
You've got November 1st through November 20 Thursday. It's Christmas. Then you've got one day for Thanksgiving, and then Black Friday on. It's Christmas again.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that schedule?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Do you know why?
We've started. We've got. I mean, we only have 3 trees up so far in our house, but we've gotten started on Christmas decorating.
That's good.
We don't have anything up yet.
Monsters.
I completely understand the people who get burnt out on Christmas music and everything starting early.
My wife.
However, it's not like there's a whole backlog of Christmas music and movies and decor, and you literally see lights and music up to that day. Then you enjoy the parade and food. Then you claim to be thankful for everything you have, and then you lie the next day when you go out and buy all the things that you don't need.
Yep.
And disprove your claim that you were thankful for everything that you had.
Yeah.
And then you go back to Christmas. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's like I feel like Thanksgiving is an okay holiday to screw up. Mm-hmm. And so the way I view it is that Thanksgiving is Christmas practice.
Yeah.
Is what Thanksgiving
mostly
is.
for the recipes.
We're gonna try to have a holiday thing, and we're gonna put a big meal out and see how that works. Make sure the dishwasher's working. Make sure the oven has been adjusted to the proper temperatures, and so that way Christmas can go off without a hitch. That's what Thanksgiving is for. Like Thanksgiving is disposable, and
it's Christmas Eve.
It's Christmas. Yeah, it's Christmas Eve. Sure.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean. You need to listen to Christmas music for Thanksgiving just to make sure that you need to relearn the lyrics so you can sing along properly.
It's a Christmas planning day. You do your name draws for Christmas.
Yeah.
You pick the dates with the family for when you'll do all the different versions of Christmas.
Yep.
Because there's different sizes of families and things.
You got to make sure all of your decorations are out and ready to go, and then that way, if like something broke during the off season. If there's lights that are out that went out during the off season, or if there's something missing, like you can then go out. Then you have that makeup day on Black Friday with all the deals that you can go out and replenish your Christmas decorations stock to go back and then plug into the decorations that were already up and trial ran for Thanksgiving. So that is what Thanksgiving is. Thanksgiving is me saying I'm thankful enough for Christmas.
Yeah.
That I'm willing to take this whole day and dedicate it to making sure that Christmas is perfect.
Yeah. And I take Corey's silence as complete and total agreement.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm cool with whatever people want to do. There was a girl on social media who it went viral. She kicked over her jack-o'-lantern the night of trick or treat, and her husband like did a drum roll, and their house had already been. All the lights were already strung, and so they just flicked on all the Christmas lights and all the trees and started all the music and all the snowflake animations across the garage.
I love it.
The night trick or treat was over, and people were like upset about it, like, you're skipping entire holidays. What's wrong? And so I was listening to Chris D'Elia, as I always do, and he's like, you complaining online is more annoying than the people who do whichever side of that camp they're on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just let people do it. Like, complaining about it online is worse than the thing.
Yeah, you can just choose to be happy. Like people who love Christmas, we're happy people.
But I did crack up at the thing I sent you guys earlier.
Yeah.
So my friend Rachel shared this. It says, "Dear people that complain about Christmas music being played too early, I don't see y'all writing any Thanksgiving bangers."
Which I think if I'm not mistaken, is it Jingle Bells or Sleigh Ride, or maybe both of them? I think it's Sleigh Ride, the lyrics.
Yeah.
Or I think that I've heard that that's a Thanksgiving song. Like that's what it was written for.
Is that how like Die Hard is a Christmas movie?
Yeah,
Sure.
it is a Christmas movie.
Yeah, why not?
The only argument you can make for a Thanksgiving movie is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. You watch that on the day or the weekend around Thanksgiving, and then you're fine. That's the one thing. I think Josh Groban has one song called Thankful. You can stream that on YouTube.
Yeah.
And you're done. That's all the content. You're done.
Doesn't Christmas Vacation have a Thanksgiving in it?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's literally called Christmas Vacation. So
But
Yeah.
we still watch The Nightmare Before Christmas between Halloween and Thanksgiving.
Christmas is in the title.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Die
it's-
Hard doesn't need Christmas in the title because it's at a Christmas party.
You know, Nightmare Before Christmas, if they would have utilized Thanksgiving the way it should be, they wouldn't have screwed up their Christmas.
They would have had a practice.
Yep. Look at that.
But he doesn't go to the turkey tree. He goes to
They didn't do the dress rehearsal. They skipped the dress rehearsal. That is Thanksgiving.
Do you guys have any Christmas practice day traditions? And by that, I mean Thanksgiving.
Everyone calling it Turkey Day. Happy Turkey Day.
Well, as a fan of the Michigan sports, I watched the Detroit Lions lose.
Yeah.
That's a tradition that we have.
I always genuinely loved watching the parade as a kid. Like,
Yeah.
very, very fond memories. And pretty much every year since I've been 16, I've had to drive during the parade. I really actually kind of miss it because I
Yeah.
do enjoy it. And it's not the same to DVR it and go back and watch it. It's just kind of a thing. Because I remember as a kid, that was the time before we would go to lunch, you could play in the living room. It was a day off school. You could play with your toys. It was on TV. My mom was always cooking in the kitchen and you could like smell the things she was making, and we're hours away from all of us packing up and going to grandma's. So that to me is a very fond, it's got like smells associated with it. And I spent a lot of time set up with toys on our living room floor in front of our console TV, just enjoying the parade and the music and playing with whatever, probably the toy wrestlers or army guys.
And there was usually one or two musical guests that you were looking forward to, like where their lineup in the parade, and a couple floats that you were like, I can't wait.
Oh, I mean, I remember like we've talked about enjoying the 90s cartoons, like all the superheroes coming by, Spider-Man,
Power Rangers,
and Power Rangers and all those superheroes coming by as a float. Like, it's not real, but it's still exciting as a kid to watch, and so, yeah, I have very fond memories of that and haven't been able to do that in a long time. So hopefully I'll give that back to my daughter as she gets older, if they're still doing it.
We would sometimes we would rabbit hunt on Thanksgiving morning before lunch, and that was fun. Another tradition, I mean, a lot of families do the family football game after lunch, in between first meal and second meal. You do a family football game, and it's usually in central Ohio. It's usually pretty grimy and cool and wet, so you're planning on getting muddy, or you're pretty cold, but you're still playing a family football game that usually gets too aggressive and somebody ends up getting hurt. But that's always a fun tradition. I remember with our cousins, we would always do that.
Yeah. Obviously the food was good. And as far as the whole recent Black Friday thing, I lived through that, like retail days.
Yeah.
So I'm all about we don't have Amazon Prime. It doesn't mean we don't order things on Amazon, but like we don't have Prime.
Right.
So I'm all about trying to support like local retail. And I know sometimes you're talking about supporting national companies, but it's the local people who are employed there. And so I'm all about that, except on Black Friday. So it's like, I'm not shopping. I almost want to send the opposite statement on Black Friday. I'll shop at your stores year round, but on Black Friday, I'm buying at home.
That's cool.
Quit making your people work on Black Friday.
Have you guys ever participated in that? Like, was there something that you absolutely had to have and were willing to sit through that chaos?
Exactly once have I been out like way stupid early in the morning for Black Friday. I was a kid, and we were at like my aunt and uncle's house in Detroit. And my mom and one of my sisters, they always go out as far back as my memory can go. Like they've always been early Black Friday shoppers. And then, but that one time that we were at extended family's house, like it was my uncle also, I guess, like to go out and like find something specific to go after and get it. And so then my dad and then me like just figured things out. And so that was like, my dad went out and got a good deal on DirecTV that morning. I found like a stereo that I wanted. And so I went out, we all went to Best Buy, and so that was the only time that I've been out. I mean, I've been shopping on Black Friday for sure, several times, but like, I wait until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
You're not camping out, seeking out one thing.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going out and being like, hey, if they still have this, I might get it. So.
And I think that's my issue isn't with that people are shopping. I was mostly joking with how harsh I was being about pretending to be thankful and not. People can be thankful and still want to shop on Black Friday.
Don't walk it back now.
Yeah.
No, because
if you have a problem with my family, Dylan.
Now that we're discussing it seriously, now I need to give my actual opinion on it. Not the one that's funny and harsh. Like, I have no problem with the actual day of shopping and the fun deals and whatever. In fact, a company that I worked for, which I loved, they decided to start offering all the same deals the Monday before Black Friday.
Yeah.
Nothing was special about Friday itself. So when people would call, I got to say, we're actually doing it right now. Everything's in stock right now. You can nothing special.
Hey, as a salesperson, that gives you a little.
Yeah.
But you know what? If you don't tell anybody. If you come in right now, we'll give it.
We got the deal right now. But for me, it's the creep back into the day. All of these companies are competing for foot traffic.
Yeah.
And so if all of them just got together and said, hey, nobody opened before 8 a.m. on Friday morning, and then nobody's going to lose any revenue because we're all opening at the same time, that would work just as well. It would never happen.
Right, that's like expecting people to do that zipper merge thing.
Yeah, it's never going to happen. But
there's going to be soon as there's one that's like, but we're going to secretly open.
But the difference is
telling anybody.
The difference is Thursday is still actually a national holiday, so they all have a justification to say, hey, let's quit pushing it into the national holiday.
Yeah,
let's just all agree that no earlier than 6 or 8 a.m. on Friday is fine.
Right.
And we'll all open at the same time because we all want to leave the national holiday a national holiday. And let's let people just show up when they're ready. Or at this point, more realistically, they're going to buy it online anyways.
Sure.
So let's just let our people sleep in, open at the normal time, offer some online deals, let foot traffic show up that wants to show up. That's, to me, what I would hope that they would all want to do. They won't.
I know it's not all like this. But you see those videos that go viral of the people climbing over each other and yelling, and cops get involved, and there's fist fights over a pillow that was 10% or a TV that was 10% off. And you're just I break out in hives when I watch those videos. I want nothing to do. There's no product I would ever want, or there's no deal so great that I would be willing to sit through that insanity where the doors open and they knock down the employees to get. That's so disgusting.
Yeah. I think, and
those are the exception. People get shot, and those are the exception. But it's just like that is like.
Well, the unseen part of that that's unfortunate is some of the most popular things to go get are. It's always electronics is category 1.
Yeah.
And then its clothing is also very popular.
Really?
Yeah.
Toys?
Clothing?
I always hear about like toys, like,
Clothing
Tickle
is
Me Elmo.
Yeah.
Clothing, because you think all the parents that buy their kids all types of bags and purses and coats and hats and boots and yada,
Okay.
yada. Unless it's a really big brand key item, like let's say an Apple product or a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One, a lot of the electronics that are the crazy deals are special versions made just for that day. And they'll use a weird model number that won't appear anywhere else because it's built and shipped and sold for this one day. With cheaper electronics, cheaper materials, less features, it's a weird model number, and they'll put a fake high MSRP on it, and this is worth $1,500, but we're selling it for $300 for this TV. And it's the same with clothes. A lot of the outlet companies, just ask them. They'll be honest with you. Hey, do you have clothing that's built just for your outlet stores that's cheaper with a higher retail price, so to speak? Or is this the exact same product that's in your normal retail store that's just sold here?
I didn't realize that.
And so people need to keep that kind of stuff in mind. Like, it might not be as good of a deal. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the same iPad everywhere. It is. Apple doesn't make cheaper versions of their stuff, but just pay attention to some of that stuff because maybe it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So, if I had any tips for having worked in that kind of sales for a long time, that's the tip. But I do get it, and for some people, some people find some good deals that makes Christmas a little easier on their wallet. So,
I don't get it.
it's not for me, but
Not for me.
I try to relate.
Okay.
That's all we got.
Yeah, we've been flapping our gums for a while.
That's true.
I feel like I didn't bring my A game on this one. I was all over the map. I just want to apologize to everyone.
Apology accepted.
Yeah.
That means you think I'm right. That means you agree. I was testing the waters and you just confirmed. Okay, cool.
I said it because I'm again I'm playing on the overthinking thing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
Can we end on a favorite Thanksgiving food or two? One or two favorite Thanksgiving foods?
Okay.
Or pre-Christmas / Thanksgiving foods? I'll say deviled eggs, mashed potatoes.
There you go.
Our Aunt Michelle one time, and she does not remember ever making this, but I know she made it. It was a real thing. It was like she took pumpkin pie guts, the guts of a pumpkin pie, but it was slightly more whipped than normal, so it wasn't as dense as a pumpkin pie is.
Right.
It was fluffier, and then that was in the middle, and then around the outside was like these crackers that were like a crust kind of cracker. Mm-hmm. So you dipped them in this pumpkin pie, but they were like a graham crackery
Pumpkin
cookie
pie nachos.
Yeah, and I'm like, do you remember when you made that? Like, she's like, I have no idea. And so, like, if you can find it, anybody,
send us the recipe.
Send us the recipe, whatever that was. It was like a cookie cracker that you dip in the whipped pumpkin pie goodness. Oh man, I toe that up.
Sounds great.
That's fantastic. I'm a fan of the cranberry sauce. And I am a fan of the mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
I feel like mashed potatoes is something that, like, growing up, we used to have all the time. Mm-hmm. And then now it's like Thanksgiving only.
What?
Really?
I don't get mashed potatoes ever.
It's too bad.
How do you like them dirty?
I like them however I can get them. I like them dirty. I like them smooth. I like them with or without butter, sour cream, sometimes gravy. And whatever kind of gravy you're giving me, it doesn't matter. I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll take it. Skins on, skins off.
I hope you're listening to this
Red potatoes.
and realizing we're
Roasted
talking about
potatoes.
potatoes. And second, on your way to Thanksgiving and you're now starving.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Indeed.
From the middle to all of you, what he said.